Chief Archivist Valera Tell moved through the abandoned human research station with practiced precision, her sensor arrays collecting data from every surface they touched. The station hung in perpetual twilight on Europa's dark side, a testament to human ingenuity, or perhaps foolishness. After all, what advanced species would build a research station on an ice moon using materials that barely qualified as industrial grade by galactic standards? The archival fleet had discovered the station 3 cycles ago, and Valera's team had been methodically documenting everything since then. As the leading xenorchaeologist of the collective, she had explored the remains of 17 civilizations, but nothing had prepared her for what they found here. Chief Archivist, you need to see this. Second Archivist Renko called from what appeared to be the station's primary laboratory. His typically steady voice carried an unusual tremor. Valera glided across the chamber, her environmental suit's anti-grav units humming softly. The laboratory looked primitive at first glance. Manual input terminals instead of neural interfaces, physical storage devices rather than quantum matrices, and mechanical tools that belonged in a museum. But as she examined Renko's findings, her 4 hearts began to beat faster. "These readings cannot be accurate," she said, her outer eyes narrowing while her inner ones focused on the data. "Run the analysis again." "I've run it 7 times, Chief," Renko replied. "The humans were conducting quantum entanglement experiments here, with equipment that shouldn't be capable of maintaining coherence for more than a few microseconds." Valera's appendages twitched in disbelief as she examined the crude apparatus. The quantum manipulation chamber was little more than a reinforced glass box with modified particle accelerator components. By all known physical laws, it should have collapsed after the first attempt. Yet the logs showed thousands of successful trials. "How?" she whispered, more to herself than to Renko. Their power systems barely qualified as fusion technology. Their computational systems used binary processing. Their material science was centuries behind the galactic standard. This shouldn't be possible. Third Archivist Junrai joined them, carrying what looked like a bound collection of pressed plant fiber sheets. "Chief, I found something in their manual records. They called it a maintenance log. You need to see this." Valera took the primitive information storage device, a book, if she remembered correctly, and began reading. Her translator implant converted the human symbols into standard collective script, revealing a story that defied everything she thought she knew about technological progression. The humans had indeed started with proper quantum containment fields, but when those failed due to power fluctuations, they didn't abandon their experiments. Instead, they had systematically worked backward, stripping away layer after layer of advanced technology, until they found configurations that worked with their limited resources. They had replaced quantum shields with precisely calibrated magnetic fields. When their computers couldn't process the calculations fast enough, they had developed analog methods to predict entanglement patterns. When standard power supplies proved insufficient, they had created a bizarre but effective system that combined their crude fusion reactions with something they called mechanical advantage. "Look at this entry," Junrai said, pointing to a particular passage. When their main power core failed, they continued their experiments by having the research team take turns on something called a bicycle generator, while others monitored the equipment. Valera's sensory tentacles coiled in surprise. They powered quantum experiments with muscle energy. "Not just that," Renko added, pulling up more data on his portable scanner. "They achieved coherence times that exceed our best laboratories by a factor of 3. The implications slowly crystallized in Valera's mind. The humans hadn't succeeded despite their technological limitations. They had succeeded because of them. Each constraint had forced them to understand the fundamental principles more deeply, to find solutions that the collective had never considered because they had never needed to." "There's more," Junrai said, her voice barely above a whisper. "These experiments, they weren't just academic research. They were developing practical applications, communication systems, navigation tools, weapons." Valera moved to the center of the laboratory. her sensor arrays taking in everything with new understanding. What had seemed primitive now looked elegant in its simplicity. What had appeared crude now revealed itself as ingenious. "Download everything," she ordered. "Every log, every reading, every scrap of data. And prepare a priority transmission to the Collective Council." "What should the message say?" Renko asked. Valera's outer eyes fixed on the quantum manipulation chamber, while her inner ones studied the bicycle generator still standing in the corner. "Tell them we've made a mistake. We've been classifying humanity as a primitive species based on their technology level. But their true advancement isn't in their tools. It's in how they think. They don't just solve problems. They reshape them until they become solvable with whatever they have at hand." She paused, considering the implications. "And tell the Council to reconsider their expansion plans for this sector of space. The humans aren't primitives who would be overwhelmed by superior technology. They're innovators who would probably find ways to turn our own advantages against us." As her team rushed to comply with her orders, Valera continued to study the laboratory. Somewhere out there, humanity was still experimenting, still innovating, still finding impossible solutions to impossible problems. And for the first time in her long career as an archivist, she felt something she had never expected: fear. The research station's data center hummed with activity as Valera's team worked to decrypt the facility's secured archives. They had discovered references to something called Project Prometheus, an initiative that had apparently saved not just the station, but potentially all of humanity from extinction. "Chief Archivist," Renko called out, his voice tight with excitement, "we've accessed the primary research logs. You need to see this immediately." The holoscreen flickered to life, displaying footage from the station's internal cameras. The timestamp indicated it was from 3 Earth years ago. Valera, watched as a human scientist, her face drawn with exhaustion, recorded what she believed would be her final log entry. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen, lead researcher at Europa Station. The Chimera strain has breached containment on levels 3 through 7. We've lost contact with mainland Earth, and our last transmission from Mars Colony indicated they were already overrun. If anyone finds this, we're attempting one final protocol. It probably won't work, but we're out of options." Valera's appendages trembled. The Chimera strain. She knew that name. It had emerged from deep space 50 cycles ago, destroying 3 advanced civilizations before mysteriously vanishing. The Collective had declared those sectors permanently quarantined. "Play the subsequent entries," she ordered. The footage continued, showing the station's crew implementing what they called Protocol Zero. Their approach defied every principle of advanced biological containment. Instead of using standard quantum sterilization or molecular disassemblers, they had turned to methods so primitive that Valera initially thought her translator was malfunctioning. "They used temperature?" Jun Rai asked incredulously, reviewing the data. "They deliberately shut down their environmental systems and let their station freeze." "Not just freeze," Renko corrected, his sensor stalks quivering. "They calculated that Europa's surface temperature alone wouldn't be enough. So they modified their water recycling system to create a pressurized spray that would flash freeze on contact with the station's hull, creating an even colder microenvironment." Valera studied the footage with growing amazement. The humans had sealed themselves in the central lab, protected by nothing more sophisticated than insulated environmental suits that they had reinforced with additional layers of fabric and adhesive tape. As the temperature plummeted, they continued their work, even as frost formed on the inside of their visors. Here, Jun Rai pointed to a new data stream. They didn't just rely on the cold. While the extreme temperature slowed the Chimera strain's spread, they were working on something else, something that shouldn't have been possible with their level of technology. The logs revealed that Dr. Chen's team had been studying the basic biological principles that allowed the Chimera strain to adapt so quickly to any countermeasure. Unable to directly manipulate its genetic structure with their limited tools, they had instead focused on its behavioral patterns. They used the station's food synthesizer, Renko explained, his voice filled with disbelief. They reprogrammed it to produce specific protein chains that mimicked the strain's preferred food source. But they made them slightly wrong, just different enough to trigger its adaptive response. Valera watched as the humans systematically laid their trap. They had created a trail of these modified proteins, leading the strain to evolve in specific ways. Each adaptation made it more vulnerable to the extreme cold they had created. It was like watching primitive hunters using simple tools to bring down prey that should have been far beyond their capabilities. The final phase is remarkable, Junrei said, bringing up the last set of logs. When the strain had evolved to its most cold, vulnerable state, they didn't just maintain the freezing temperature. They rapidly cycled the environment between extreme cold and moderate warmth. The thermal shock, Valera whispered, finally understanding. They created a condition where the strain's adaptive capabilities worked against it. Each temperature swing forced it to evolve faster, but in conflicting directions. The footage showed the final hours of the operation. The human crew, despite their primitive equipment, had monitored the strain's deterioration with remarkable precision. They had maintained their brutal temperature cycling until every trace of the organism had been eliminated, then systematically sterilized each level of the station using nothing more complex than heat, cold, and common cleaning compounds. The most extraordinary part, Renko noted, is that they didn't just survive. They documented everything, created a comprehensive protocol that could be implemented with minimal technology, and broadcasted to every human settlement in the solar system. They turned a last resort survival tactic into a reproducible scientific process. Valera moved to the station's main viewport, gazing out at Europa's icy surface. The humans had faced an organism that had overwhelmed civilizations with technology centuries beyond their own. Rather than trying to match its complexity, they had reduced the problem to basic principles they could manipulate with the tools at hand. "Update the council report," she ordered. "Include a full analysis of this incident. They need to understand. The humans don't just survive against superior forces. They learn from them. They adapt. They turn their limitations into advantages in ways that our predictive models can't anticipate." As her team compiled the data, Valera reflected on what they had discovered. The humans hadn't just survived the Chimera strain. They had done so in a way that revealed something far more significant about their species. They were not bound by technological limitations. If anything, those limitations seemed to spark their most innovative solutions. "There's something else, Chief," Junrei said quietly. According to the final logs, Dr. Chen and her team didn't just want to survive. They wanted to ensure that even if human civilization was reduced to its most basic level, they would still have the tools to fight back. Every solution they developed could be replicated with minimal technology. Valera felt her fear from earlier deepen into something approaching awe. The humans weren't just planning for their present. They were planning for every possible future, ensuring their survival regardless of what they might lose. Valera and her team had moved their investigation to the station's engineering section, where each discovery seemed more puzzling than the last. The humans had created a technological ecosystem that defied conventional classification, a hybrid network where advanced systems coexisted with mechanisms that seemed almost deliberately primitive. "I don't understand," Renko said, examining what appeared to be a manual control panel beside a quantum interference detector. They had the knowledge to build automated systems. Why install physical switches and analog gauges? Valera ran her sensory appendages over the panel. "Keep looking. There must be a reason." The answer came 3 hours later when Junrei discovered the station's emergency protocols. Her usual calm demeanor had given way to evident agitation as she presented her findings to the team. "They call it technological layering," she explained, displaying schematics on her portable terminal. "Every critical system in the station has at least 3 operational modes: advanced, basic, and what they term mechanical fallback. Each layer operates on completely different principles." The implications slowly crystallized in Valera's mind. "Show me the power distribution system." The schematics revealed an engineering philosophy that no collective designer would have ever considered. The primary power grid used advanced fusion technology, but it was interlinked with a secondary network of chemical batteries. Below that was a tertiary system of mechanical energy storage, flywheels, compressed air chambers, and even simple spring mechanisms. Here's what makes it remarkable, Junrei continued. These aren't just backups. They're integrated in a way that allows instant transition between systems. If the fusion reactor fails, the chemical batteries engage automatically. If those fail, the mechanical systems can be activated with a single lever pull. Renko, who had been analyzing the station's computational systems, added his own findings. The same principle applies to their data processing. They have quantum processors for complex calculations, but every crucial system also has a basic electronic computer as backup. And below that, he paused, as if still doubting his own analysis. Below that, they have mechanical calculators, actual physical mechanisms that can perform essential functions without any power at all. Valera moved through the engineering section with new understanding. What had seemed like technological regression now revealed itself as a carefully crafted resilience. The humans hadn't kept primitive technology out of nostalgia or inability to advance. They had deliberately preserved and integrated it as part of their survival strategy. Look at this, Junrei called from a nearby workstation. She had accessed the station's maintenance logs. They regularly ran drills where they deliberately disabled their advanced systems. The crew had to keep the station running using only basic or mechanical systems. They practiced this monthly. The more they investigated, the more this pattern repeated. The humans had created redundancies that went beyond simple backup systems. They had built an operational framework that could function at any technological level, ensuring their survival regardless of what capabilities they might lose. "There's something else," Renko said, his voice carrying a note of disbelief. They didn't just maintain these different technological layers, they innovated at each level. Look at these mechanical calculators. They're not ancient designs. They're new. The humans kept developing and improving their primitive technology even as they advanced their quantum systems. Valera accessed the station's design archives, and what she found there challenged everything she thought she knew about technological progress. The humans had detailed analyses of how their advanced systems could fail, and for each failure mode, they had developed countermeasures using simpler technology. They're not just preparing for system failures, she realized. They're preparing for technological regression. If they lost their advanced capabilities, through war, disaster, or attack, they could continue operating at a reduced but effective level. Junrei brought up another set of schematics. It goes beyond that. Look at how they designed their advanced systems. They deliberately used principles that could be replicated with simpler technology. Their quantum communications array. Its core functions can be reproduced using basic radio waves and a mechanical encryption system. The team spent hours documenting this strange technological philosophy. The humans had created a technological infrastructure that could be stripped down to its basic components and rebuilt from scratch if necessary. Every advanced system had a primitive analog, and every primitive system had been refined to its highest possible efficiency. "This changes everything we thought we knew about them," Valera said, composing her latest report to the Council. "We assumed their mixed technology level indicated a species still developing toward proper technological uniformity. Instead, they've deliberately created a technological culture that can survive any level of regression or disruption." She paused, considering the implications. They're not just advancing toward higher technology. They're expanding in all directions simultaneously, developing new capabilities while ensuring they can operate without them if necessary. It's not inefficiency. It's a survival strategy we never imagined. The report would shake the foundations of the collective's understanding of technological development. The humans had rejected the standard path of abandoning primitive technology as they advanced. Instead, they had created something new, a technological ecosystem where advanced and primitive systems strengthened each other, creating a resilience that no single level of technology could match. The personal quarters of Europa Station's crew held secrets that Valera found more perplexing than any of their technological innovations. Her team had spent days analyzing what the humans called personal logs, recordings and written accounts that revealed the psychological dimensions of their achievements. "Listen to this entry," Junrei said, playing an audio recording. Dr. Chen's voice filled the room, tired but determined. Day 47 of isolation. The quantum array failed again today. Normally, this would end the experiment. But John remembered his grandfather's stories about building radios during some conflict called World War I. "We adapted the principle to maintain quantum coherence. It's crude, but it works. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." Valera's sensory appendages twitched with interest. They preserve knowledge through personal stories. More than that, Renko added, reviewing another log. They actively seek out historical knowledge, not just scientific data. Look at this. They maintained an archive of what they called survival stories. Accounts of humans surviving extreme situations with limited resources. The crew studied these regularly. The team had discovered that the station's database contained not just technical manuals and scientific papers, but thousands of historical accounts, personal narratives, and even what the humans called fiction, imagined scenarios that tested the limits of problem solving. "This is remarkable," Junrei said, displaying multiple log entries. When faced with a crisis, they don't just access technical solutions. They draw inspiration from their entire species' history of survival. Every crew member was required to study historical examples of human adaptation and improvisation. Valera moved through the personal quarters, examining the peculiar items the crew had kept. Each room contained what appeared to be primitive entertainment devices, books printed on paper, mechanical puzzles, and tools for creating art. But deeper analysis revealed these weren't just for recreation. They're training tools, she realized, studying a complex mechanical puzzle. Every recreational activity seems designed to maintain problem-solving skills that don't rely on advanced technology. The personal logs revealed another pattern that challenged collective understanding. The humans didn't view technological advancement as a linear progression. Their problem-solving methodology actively incorporated solutions from different eras of their development. "Look at this training protocol," Renko said, displaying a crew evaluation document. They regularly conducted what they called regression drills, scenarios where they had to solve complex problems using increasingly primitive technology. But they didn't see it as regression. They called it expanding their survival toolkit. Junrei had been analyzing the crew's psychological profiles. Their mental resilience is extraordinary. When faced with impossible situations, they don't just accept failure. They redefine the parameters of success. Listen to this log entry from their engineering chief. The recording played. "The conventional solution isn't working, and we don't have the right equipment to try the textbook alternatives. But humans have been solving problems since we first picked up stones as tools. The answer is here somewhere. We just have to think like our ancestors while using what we know now." Valera found herself drawn to the personal effects of Dr. Chen. The station's lead researcher had kept a physical journal, actual words written on paper. The entries revealed something profound about human psychology. "They don't just preserve knowledge," she said, studying the journal. "They maintain emotional connections to their past. Look at how Dr. Chen writes about ancient human achievements with the same immediacy as current ones. In their minds, all human knowledge, regardless of its age, remains relevant and alive." The team's analysis revealed that the station's crew had developed what they called a technological ancestry, a deep understanding of how their current capabilities had evolved from simpler solutions. This wasn't just academic knowledge. It was an integral part of their problem-solving approach. "This challenges everything we assumed about primitive species," Valera noted, composing her latest report. We thought their attachment to old technologies was a sign of backwardness. Instead, it's a deliberate strategy. They maintain connections to their technological past because they understand that today's advanced solution might be impossible tomorrow. John Rai had discovered something else in the crew's personal files, evidence of regular communication with their families, including stories and lessons they wanted preserved. They're not just training themselves, she realized. They're preparing future generations. Every solution they discover, every adaptation they make, becomes part of their species' collective knowledge. Valera felt her understanding of humanity shifting fundamentally. The collective had always viewed technological progress as a process of replacing old solutions with new ones. The humans, instead, saw it as an ever-expanding toolkit. They didn't discard old tools just because they had developed better ones. Update the council report, she ordered. The human psychological profile needs complete revision. They don't think like a species that achieved spaceflight through logical progression. They think like survivors who fought their way to the stars, carrying every lesson, every tool, every story that helped them survive. She paused, considering the implications. Their greatest strength isn't their technology or even their adaptability. It's their refusal to forget. Every solution their species has ever discovered remains alive in their collective memory, ready to be adapted to new challenges. The personal quarters of Europa Station had revealed something no technical analysis could have shown: the true source of humanity's resilience. They hadn't just preserved their history, they had turned it into a living resource, a vast library of survival knowledge that spanned their entire existence as a species. Valera stood in the station's communications center, her entire research team gathered around her as she prepared to transmit their final report to the collective council. The weight of their discoveries pressed heavily on her consciousness. What they had learned about humanity would reshape the collective's understanding of civilization itself. Begin emergency priority transmission, she commanded, her voice steadied despite her inner turmoil. To the High Council of the Collective, regarding species designation, human, classification, urgent revision required. The quantum communicator hummed to life, its crystals pulsing with stored energy. Valera had spent hours composing this message, knowing it might determine the future relationship between their civilizations. Honored Council, our investigation of the Europa Research Station has revealed critical errors in our assessment of human capabilities. What we previously classified as technological inconsistency is, in fact, a deliberate and sophisticated survival strategy that we have never encountered before. She transmitted the first batch of data, their findings about the humans' layered technology approach. The humans have not developed along any recognized path of technological evolution. They have instead created something unprecedented, a civilization that can function at any technological level, advancing and regressing as circumstances demand without losing operational capability. Renko added his analysis of their problem-solving methodology. The humans' approach to the Chimera strain had not been a desperate last resort, but a demonstration of their fundamental approach to challenges, reducing complex problems to their basic elements and solving them with whatever tools were available. Most critically, Valera continued, we have discovered that human advancement does not follow our understanding of progress. They do not discard previous solutions when they develop better ones. Instead, they maintain and refine capabilities across all technological levels simultaneously. This is not primitive retention. It is tactical advantage deliberately maintained. Junmari's psychological analysis followed, revealing how humans systematically preserved and transmitted survival knowledge across generations. Their seemingly primitive practice of storytelling was, in fact, a sophisticated system for maintaining critical survival information in a form that could survive any technological collapse. The implications for collective security policy are severe, Valera emphasized. Our current models for technological superiority are meaningless when applied to humans. They have demonstrated the ability to defeat advanced threats using primitive tools, not through desperation, but through deliberate strategy and preparation. She paused, knowing her next words would challenge centuries of collective doctrine. The humans are not a primitive species awaiting elevation, nor are they an advanced species by our standard metrics. They are something we have never encountered before, a species that has rejected the very concept of technological dependency. The transmission continued with detailed analyses of the station's systems, the crew's training protocols, and their comprehensive preparation for technological regression. Each piece of evidence reinforced their central finding. Humanity's apparent technological inconsistency was actually a sophisticated survival adaptation. Our standard protocols for technological superiority would be not just ineffective, but potentially catastrophic if applied to humans, Valera warned. They do not recognize technological advancement as we do. To them, every tool, whether quantum computer or lever and fulcrum, is equally valid if it solves the problem at hand. She transmitted the final section of their report, a series of recommended policy changes that would fundamentally alter the collective's approach to human civilization. First, all plans for technological elevation of human systems must be immediately abandoned. They are not seeking advancement along our recognized paths. Second, current military doctrine regarding technological superiority must be revised. Humans have demonstrated the ability to defeat advanced systems using primitive solutions we would never anticipate. Third, the classification of human civilization must be changed from developing species to divergent advanced species with a unique subcategory reflecting their multi-technological approach. Finally, I strongly recommend initiating diplomatic contact from a position of cautious equality. The humans are not what we thought they were. They are not bound by technological limitations. They have transcended the very concept of technological dependence. Valera concluded the transmission with a personal observation. In our quest to advance beyond our origins, the collective has forgotten many of the basic principles that got us to the stars. The humans have not. They remember everything, preserve everything, and can recreate anything they have ever known. They are not primitive. They are not advanced. They are something else entirely, a species that has found a way to climb the ladder of progress without ever letting go of any rung. As the transmission completed, Valera turned to her team. Prepare for immediate departure. Our presence here may already have been detected, and if there's one thing we've learned, it's that we cannot predict how humans might respond to discovering us. As they began their evacuation procedures, Valera took one final look at the station. The humans had created something remarkable here, not just a research facility, but a testament to their species' unique approach to survival. They had proven that advancement didn't have to mean abandonment of the past, that progress didn't require dependency on any particular level of technology. The collective would need time to process these revelations, but Valera knew that their understanding of civilization itself would never be the same. The humans had shown them that there was another path, one that didn't reach for the stars by leaving the ground behind, but by bringing every tool, every lesson, every capability along for the journey.